fee, so that's the fee that I had suggested. Any fees will need to go to a separate public hearing after advertising in the newspaper. So this is just for discussion on the fee, but you are welcome to approve the application.
And you need a vote?
Yes.
Okay, so any questions?
Nope. I'll make a motion, we accept the application as drafted.
Second.
Oh, do I still have to say all in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
It's passed, so,
Any comments on the fee? Go forward with
yeah.
a public hearing on
The
it?
fee's fine.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, in line with the rest, that's great.
Okay. Can you make a motion to schedule a public hearing for the
I'll
fee?
make a motion, we schedule a public hearing to accept the draft and the fee.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Can you make
By
a?
the way, it's move, not make a motion, remember. Larry told us that.
Thank you.
You're gonna have to forgive me if I don't do that tonight. No, I'm kidding. So, please make the meeting, okay?
I will make that happen. And then the second item for review is the application for the sewer connection permit, as well as discuss a proposed fee for that permit application. This is an application for the licensed utility installer to apply for the connection. So it's very similar to a disposal system construction permit that an installer would apply for. It has some pertinent information about the property, the owner, type of building it is, type of system it is going to be, and then whether or not the on-site Title V system is going to be abandoned as part of this permit, or if someone else is doing that work. Again, it's very similar to other towns' permit application. There's some instructions on the back of what is needed to be supplied with this application. 4 copies of the site plan, a copy of the floor plans, existing and proposed, and a signed permit application.
What does it mean by designer? I thought you put all different parts together, but it's one designer?
One professional engineer or sanitarian would have to do a septic or sewer connection design plan.
Oh,
So a plan
very
to
formal.
do.
then.
It is.
Okay.
So it might make sense to vote on these 2 things separately, the application or,
I so move that we approve the application for a sewer connection permit.
Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
and the second part of that is the fee.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
I've had discussions with the town administrator who has offered to, not that he would approve it, but he'd be inclined to see no fee for this work.
Me too.
That's up for discussion. I did a little footwork as far as what the process of taking in the permit to closing the permit, this administrative staff and the technical staff, inspectional staff, start to finish. It's about $64 that it costs my department, not including overhead, not including the gas it takes to get places and all of those benefits sort of things. But so in the grand scheme of thing, if we're doing 650 of these, how much money are we
Where's it coming from?
losing? It comes from,
No, I mean, if we don't have a fee, where's it coming from?
it comes out of
Our general budget.
our general budget.
Right.
Right, so it's paid for, just like people's taxes are paying for us to investigate complaints and do the educational seminars for these things, so.
Did we do it later?
Yes, you
What
can
later?
amend a fee later. Yes.
Do you need this to make your budget?
No, my staff's going to get paid
I mean,
through.
but in the larger sense, would this money be difficult to recover any other way?
Eventually, the income to the Board of Health is going to go down because of the sewer project. We take in 20,000, 30,000 a year on septic system permits, and those are gonna phase out eventually, and we'll just have sewer connection permits, and if we're not taking in a
Well,
fee,
But only in the sewerable part of town, right?
right,
You're
Right.
still gonna have to have septic tanks in the rest of the town.
about half the town, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you recommend fee or no fee?
It's really not up to me.
Okay, I just thought you had an idea.
Yeah, I think it's a
If it-
good gesture to
I
not
think
charge
I
a
agree
fee.
with
I
that.
think so too. I so move that
And
we
you
not
have,
charge a fee.
I like no fee.
You like no fee? Oh,
I like no fee.
oh, okay.
Okay,
I like no fee. Just because I think there's so much burden on the first half of the people with their pump system upgrades. Anything we could do to hold back the fee and trade it off. And then we could always look at it. If there's a big hole in your budget, staff budget,
Right.
we'll,
I agree.
we'll, maybe on second phase two, we put it into place.
mhm.
Is that something we could do?
Yep,
Okay.
you're always able to change or increase your fees.
Yeah, to get started, we could go, I'm more inclined to say less is more
Mhm.
for the, because it's just gonna get passed right to the
Homeowner.
person who's getting whacked already.
Mhm.
Pretty good.
Mhm.
Doctor? No
Oh,
fee? Fee?
No, I moved it already. I moved no fee.
No fee, no fee.
No fee, okay. Do I hear, what am I supposed to say now?
Is there a second?
Second,
I'll second it.
oh, is that the motion?
You-
Okay,
you make a motion, I'll second it.
okay.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
What am I supposed to say? Not the motion's passed? Yeah.
We already passed it.
Okay,
Motion
yeah,
passed.
okay, I thought I was supposed to.
Hearing no objection.
And you can ask the public if they have any.
Any questions from the public? No? Okay, I close the meeting for that.
And then the third part of the work session is to discuss the board's position on the one-year connection time frame and the requirement for the design to be done only by a professional engineer. As it stands right now, the sewer regulations mandate a one-year connection time frame from the time written notification comes from the Board of Health to the time they should have their sewer connection installed. And also, the regulations state that the design shall be done by a professional engineer, where Title V allows for a registered sanitarian to do design work for design flows of less than 2,000 gallons a day, which is most of your residential dwellings. I support both of those changes. I think the 2-year time frame is more realistic for people. It will most likely keep some requests for an extension down as
Yeah.
for our workload. And there's gonna be a lot of people trying to connect at once, and getting contractors lined up in that 1-year time frame may.
Although it looks like every other plumber in the town is gonna become
Yeah.
a sanitarian.
Well, it's not that easy, but yeah.
Okay, good.
And then the change from sanitarian to include that, I think it's within the scope of a sanitarian's capabilities to design a sewer connection. This was on the selectmen's agenda 2 weeks ago, where they discussed it, and they too would like to move forward with this. having a letter of support from the Board of Health would help the cause. It does need to go over to the town of Chatham for them to say that it's an okay change, and then it would need to go for a public hearing through the selectmen to make the change official.
So it's entirely probable that the installer and the designer will be the same person then?
Not likely, actually. There's only a few that do both. An
Well, I thought it-
installer is different than a,
I thought it said that a sanitarian who was installing something under 2,000 gallons a day could be his own designer.
a sanitarian who's designing something less than 2,000 gallons a day is allowed to stamp the plan to design it. So a sanitarian is a designer.
Oh, he doesn't
Draftsman,
install?
No.
Oh,
No.
I misunderstood. I
Right.
thought they installed also.
Yeah, draftsman as opposed to
Oh,
a excavator.
okay.
Right.
I see.
There are a handful of sanitarians who also install,
Okay.
but it's not the norm.
Ah, okay.
So the Board of Selectmen would like a letter of support. I'm happy
Sure.
to write it under,
Do we need to vote on that? Okay. I'd make a motion that we accept those changes, the 2-year as opposed to 1, the sanitation person, to open it up a little bit.
okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. You don't need to set up a public hearing for that.
We do not, no,
Okay,
we
just go to
don't,
the selectmen.
we don't write those regulations, we can only make suggestions on them. It's not quite 7 yet, so we could jump to permits, if you'd like.
Let's,
There's only one new permit. There's quite a few permits because it's the end of the year.
Mhm.
You'll have the next couple of meetings that are full of permits. The only new permit is a mobile food permit from Dennis Public Market. And they have a very nice mobile food truck. They operate out of their store in Dennis. They've received temporary permits from us in the past. They do a really nice job, but they find it easier to just get the year-long mobile permit rather than temporary after temporary.
sure.
So,
Are they the ones that set up in the parking lot up on 124?
no, that was a few years ago, I think,
Okay.
and that wasn't them.
Okay.
They were at the Cranberry Festival this past
Oh,
September.
yeah.
Mhm.
So was I.
Mhm.
Okay,
They have a nice little store there too.
yeah.
They do, it's family run, it's nice.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept the permits as written, including Dennis Public Market.
Second motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Permits passed.
Moving at a brisk pace.
Moving right along. Oh, and other news, you wanna talk about the new member?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. We had an applicant for Board of Health member,
Oh, good.
Dr. Dalgallo. He's a dentist in town. He met with the interview team, and do you?
Oh, you do?
Okay.
Very nice guy.
He seemed so.
Yeah.
So the interview team recommended to the selectmen to appoint, and they appointed last night. So they'll send him a letter, and he'll come in and get sworn in at the clerk's office, and then be able to most likely come to the January meeting.
Excellent.
So we'll be at full capacity.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
He's a local dentist
Yeah.
with a old practice.
Okay.
Searching. Go out of order.
KP.
Oh, okay.
Yes, he seemed interested and able to make the evening meetings and willing to do some,
For all that money,
Education.
too.
I know, whole $41 a month. I don't know how you
Yeah.
guys do it.
Well, I don't get $41.
don't?
Hey,
I get 39.
Oh, after taxes, right, I
Oh.
sent, yeah. Mhm,
Kidding.
money is money.
mhm.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
just teasing.
So I could do my report now, if we have 10 more minutes or so before 7 o'clock. So exciting news for Katie, our health
great.
agent. She passed her soil evaluator exam,
Oh, good.
both the written and the field course. She did great. She was nervous, but as always, she pulls through. She's a very smart girl.
It's a lot of work. It's great.
It was 8 weeks of travel and full days out in the field and lots of education there.
Well, congratulate her for it.
Yes,
She
I
could
will.
do some moonlighting for the landscaping people.
She could. And both Mark and Katie attended the Health Officers Association meeting in Falmouth this year. They learned about the new food code that just came out, a few changes in the new food code. Some of our retail stores that only sell packaged, non-refrigerated goods, we no longer license. They're not considered food establishments. So unless we come up with our own food service regulation calling them out as food establishments, we don't license them. I think we lost six or seven licenses. So that's a little bit of revenue, but at the same time, it's
Yeah.
not, we don't have to go out
Don't
and
worry
check
about
the
that.
expiration date of a can of
They
Coke.
can go into a vending machine, they can sell it, right?
Yes, and even if it's not in a vending machine, if it's in a cooler and they're selling bottled water and gum, we
Yeah.
used to have to go and spend
Uh-huh.
our time and reports and everything doing that, so we no longer have to do that.
Oh, good.
Last month, the 90% drawings for the funding for the sewer design was sent over to DEP from CDM Smith. With that done, we've had a lot more engineering inquiries, looking for those drawings so they can start their own drawings for these homeowners. The wastewater support committee did a second mailing to the phase 2 homeowners, and it had a 2-page 5-step how to hook up to the sewer.
Mhm.
It was meant to be a simplified how to, step by step, letting people know that they don't have to hook up in a year. It's probably gonna be 3,
Yeah, but
for,
sometime, apparently, these people want to get the whole thing in place except for the final connection, right? Isn't that what that
some
means?
people do.
Yeah.
And the first step is to put the sewer mains in the road, which will be
Sure.
done by the contractors the town hires.
Yeah.
And when they put those sewer mains in the road, the homeowners will be asked where they want their stub to be
Yeah,
put.
yeah.
So that's the first piece of homework that the homeowners have to do.
But if they had the sub all installed, then could they just say, it's right here, connect it?
They could, but it wouldn't be very wise to install the homeowner's portion yet,
Oh,
because the sewer main and the road could be higher or lower
I
as
see.
they installed it. And if that sewer stub is too low, they've installed it,
yeah.
they'll have to do it again. So, so not a good
At least
idea.
put an elbow in.
Right, right.
Okay.
To wait till the line's in.
Yeah, so there's been very, very proactive who want to have their designs done already. And then there's the other side that say, I'm not gonna do anything until I get a letter from the Board of Health, which, and everything in between, and either case is okay, you know? Budget review has started, budget time is upon us. I did complete my budget for the department, and I have a review with the town administrator tomorrow. Stayed within the 2.5%.
Hooray.
Hooray, yeah, I think we'll be fine. Didn't change any of our line items, same as last year. We did well, so I don't anticipate any pushback from that. Let's see, permit renewals, obviously, with the permit list we just approved, have gone out electronically, and we've gotten a good response for that. That saves a lot of time stuffing envelopes and postage, so that program's still going really well.
Is that connected with the seller? Or is that our own one?
Some permits are renewable through Acela, but not all. Not not most, actually. There's only a few that are Acela enabled. So people will download the application and mail it back with a check. They're,
Old fashioned, but
I
good.
know,
It
it works, it
That's
does.
great.
Um,
It's in a PDF and they can just print it.
Yes, and it's a fillable PDF, so they can type in their information and print it, and we can read it, so that's even better. Acela, as anticipated, we again had trouble renewing.
I was just gonna
Yeah.
ask that.
Just curious. to
So
see if those
annual
go-
licenses, like the food service, they should expire December 31st and automatically expire, so you can renew it, say December 1st. It's not doing that. So every
Work in
time we get,
progress.
it's a work in many year progress. So the county commissioner Barnstable County has supplied Dave Sullivan again. He's a person who comes just to work on Acela. He's come last Thursday, he's coming again this Thursday to fix the bugs in the renewals again. So,
And introduce some new ones.
well, yes, we're introducing 2 new permits that he's uploading, the sewer connection and the licensed utility
I mean, new
installer.
bugs.
There probably will be new bugs, but it's just another holdup for me to say, put all the licenses on Acela, because they don't seem to work every time, and it's difficult. It's not quite twice the amount of work when you have to go in and expire a license to create a new
You think
one.
they're gonna be able to handle the sewer thing?
That's a different kind of permit that doesn't
Okay.
expire like a annual license.
Okay.
So I think that will be okay, yeah.
Okay.
In your packet, you also have a letter from the Tobacco Control Director, Sarah McColgan, from MHOA, who's notifying us that Save on Gas did fail a compliance check for tobacco. So
They save on.
they're down almost into Dennis on the right, across from 7-Eleven.
Okay.
They have the gas
That's the
station.
one that's right at the triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
Okay.
often confused with Value Mart, but
Yeah.
the Save On is on Division Street, down
Yes.
28 Division
Yeah.
Street. So no actions required on our part, because it's an FDA inspection and not a local inspection, so we don't have to act on it. It's more of an informational thing, and if it happens again, like we did last year with 7-Eleven and Cumberland Farms, they had 2 in a year, so I had them come before you, just as a, you can't let this happen anymore.
Have they been tested since?
I don't know, I
Yeah.
only get results maybe twice a year.
Negative results.
Yeah, I only hear about the
Okay.
bad ones, so I'm not sure.
All right.
And Pam went before the board last week to present the Board of Health's annual report to the selectmen.
Thank you,
They-
Pam.
Yeah, thank you.
Her yearly duty. And Value Mart, speaking of Value Mart, did pay their non-criminal violation citation for $25 for having expired food. So
Mhm.
they are paid up, and we will continue to do spot
Has there
checks
been any
there.
since?
No.
I was
None
gonna go in
since.
and check.
You can,
I
you
know,
can.
but I didn't wanna get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple more minutes. Taking care of all of the other stuff.
2 more minutes.
2 more minutes.
We vote on section 4 now? Continuation?
Gotta wait till
We have to
7.
wait till 7.
You have to wait till 7. Did you want the written report that you provided to the selectmen to go into the written annual report? Or do you
Is
wanna
that
do?
what- I don't know, is that what's usually done?
It wasn't done last year, but it
Well, I
could.
didn't do.
Yeah. So some boards write a
Is-
separate
Does it
one.
usually go in?
I recall, I think it's a good idea. 'cause it
Okay.
gives them
Yeah,
annual
Sure.
report.
okay, so I'll just
And it was a
submit
good
that.
re- It was a good report that Bill received, so,
Okay,
yeah, good recognition.
great. Yeah, I'll submit that for the town's annual report that
Okay.
gets printed with the pretty cover. And I'll write one for the department that covers all the permits and licenses and revenue and all of that.
Perfect, thank you. Okay.
I think it's about time.
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
If anybody hasn't signed in yet, would you just mind signing in? Alright, good to go.
Okay. I now open the public hearing.
We have a continued hearing for Perks, Taylor and Sarah Powell for 545 Route 28. And they have requested a continuance to be heard at the January 15th, 2019 Board of Health meeting rather than tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
Any comments from the public?
They have to come all the way up from Florida, so I don't feel too bad about that, especially this time of year with all the travel problems.
So
We
you-
need
Does
to
that
vote on
require-
that, or do we need to vote on
You,
that?
you do, yeah. Request, yep, to
I'll make a
approve
motion
of.
that we carry it over for January.
So moved. I mean, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion's passed, and the hearing's closed.
And now on to new business. We have a public hearing to solicit comment on proposed amendments to the real estate transfer regulation. The public hearing was published in the Cape Cod Chronicle on November 29th and December 6th as required by law. In your packet, you have the redlined version and then the clean version. So I'll go over quickly not quickly, as long as it takes the changes in the regulation that we had been talking about over the last few months. On page 1, we changed that registered engineers and sanitarians are exempt from taking the Harwich Board of Health exam. That's always been the way we've done it. We just wanted to reflect that in the regulation. Also, any system inspector is required to register, have that license with the town, and it expires annually. And that is the reason for that is if we have an inspector that is not up to par, is not providing accurate inspections, then they can come before you all for ever revoking their license or giving them some sort of reprimand. On page 2, I had suggested making it a regulation that all covers for components to be within 6 inches of finished grade for systems installed after March 31st, 1995. Again, this part of the regulation is something that we've always enforced in the office at staff level, but to have it in the regulation just gives us a little bit more of a backing to have the inspectors do this in the field. And I rescinded a portion of an old guidance document from 1997. We have guidance documents that we can provide, I didn't think it needed to be in here. Page 3, requiring that all forms for inspections be filed electronically. Again, this was about 2 years ago. We had voted to require all forms to be electronically filed. This just gives it some backing in the regulation.
There's no pushback on that, right?
There are a few that are new to Acela that do give us a little bit of trouble, but once they get it, it's easy.
Okay. And it's good on our end, it works on
It
our
grates,
end?
yes, it does work. That is something that it works really well with Acela.
And those without internet access have access to the library, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
They have access to the library. They can do it on their cell phone if they want. They can even come into town hall and we'll provide them with the resources if need be.
Okay.
Section 3 of inspection protocol, I took out the redundant parts of things that are already in Title V. Not less than 30 days prior to the transfer. What we did change is Board of Health must receive the signed inspection form within 30 days of the inspection. Within 7 days was unrealistic for the inspector to do the work, get paid, and submit the form, so we changed it to 30. And that we can take up to 30 days to review a report. So sometimes a report comes into the office and a homeowner or real estate agent wants it reviewed and turned around in a day, and it's
Immediately.
just not possible.
Yeah.
How often is a home inspector also licensed to inspect the,
Once a year. Once a year through the town and once every 3 years through the state.
but they're usually the same, one and the same, a home inspector and the?
No,
No,
they're different.
different?
On page 4. If the inspection shows the system to be passed, the Board of Health shall issue a letter of compliance within 30 days after receiving the completed report. This allows us to say you need our letter in order for this system to be considered passed. A passing Title V from the state form sometimes cuts it for other towns or other lawyers that will be looking for a passing report, but our letter is what determines that it's actually passed. It shows that we've reviewed it and agree with the inspector's findings. And then section 9 of that is the new section on the sewer area waiver. And this is something we had talked about in depth, about allowing for systems in phase 2 having a failed on-site septic system, a cesspool, or a failing Title V system, that they are allowed to not immediately upgrade and instead connect to the sewer system within 45 days. There are some conditions that the system has to be inspected and not be an immediate danger to the public or environmental health, and that they need to sign the waiver form, which says that they agree to upgrade to the sewer connection within 45 days of availability. And that's it. So this was a publicly advertised hearing for regulations, so we are able to actually vote on, you are able to vote on it now.
Shall I ask about public, anybody,
I'll make a
comments from the
comments.
public? Anybody? Okay.
I'll make a motion, we accept the changes to the regulations that we just reviewed.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed?
Jennifer, are you the expert on redlining, or are you?
That was me.
That was you, congratulations.
Thank
It's not an easy app to use.
No, Microsoft Word makes it pretty easy.
Yeah, it's getting better. Okay.
Next, we have a hearing for Freitas subdivision and environmental impact report for Raptor Road subdivision. Approval of a 6-lot A&R subdivision and request for relief from Harwich Board of Health Regulation 1.211. 1, requirement for a shared septic system, and 2, requirement for nitrogen removal technology.
Okay, hereby open the hearing. If you can introduce yourselves and.
My name's Robert Freitas, this is Liz Dubuque.
Spouse.
Basically, it's a really large piece of land that, it actually had 5 lots before, so I didn't actually make that many changes. I just took the lots and made them all more the same size, basically. They're all 2.5 acres or bigger. I think they're right on the edge of the watershed, so they're not in the middle. And basically, it's across the street from the forest, so there's a lot of land for the nitrogen to leach into if it needs to, especially with the size of the lots themselves even. Laid out on the map basically where, you know, the houses would go. And a good location for the septics, because take into account slope and everything.
Any comments from the audience? Can I have the director's advice?
Engineer Bob Perry has submitted a hydrogeological impact statement as well as a letter. In the letter, you probably just got tonight. Did you distribute that tonight? That came today. So it outlines what they're proposing. So these lots are over 110,000 square feet. The subdivision, every lot is within a zone 2. It's in the water recharge area. It's also within the Pleasant Bay watershed, which is why they need to have relief from regulation 1.211. That regulation says if you have 5 lots or greater and you're within the Pleasant Bay watershed and in the zone 2, you have to have a shared septic system and you have to have nitrogen removing technology.
Yeah.
So they're requesting relief from those 2 parts of the regulation. The reason why I believe it's that I recommend that you approve these is because they are such large lots. The nitrogen loading on the lots has been done and calculated at less than 5 parts per million per lot, even at maximum build-out of 7 bedrooms, which is unlikely that a 7-bedroom house will be built on every lot. But
Very
it's
unlikely.
it's unlikely, but they didn't want to limit themselves, so they threw out a 7-bedroom home. They are very high up from the groundwater. They're very far away from any freshwater pond for phosphorus issues. The lots are proposed to be served by individual wells because they are very far away from any town-provided town water.
Just a question, on lot 4, we have two houses on one lot.
For proposed dwelling. Where do you see that?
Those little tiny things, those are the septic system. The 2 little squares you're looking at?
No, I'm looking at lot 4, and the road cuts through it, but there's a house on both sides of the road.
Oh, no, that's another lot, actually. That's not actually a part of this subdivision.
The house to the right is not part of the subdivision.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
It's the only thing in the area, and I drew it on there just to show the separation of the well and the septics from everybody else.
I see. That's an existing house right now. The house to the right?
It's not existing yet, but they're actually starting to build now.
Okay, but you don't own that plot?
No. No.
Okay. It's just confusing on the,
Are you planning on installing any connections to the sewer line ahead of time, or is that your?
I don't think the town's gonna run it out there, would be my guess.
Okay, okay.
If they ran it up Round Cove Road, they could keep coming around the corner, but if they ever did, it'd probably be one of the last things they did.
Yeah, well, Round Cove Road is not a public way, well, much of it anyway.
No, it is actually.
One lane dirt road?
It's a town road.
Okay.
It's laid out 27 feet wide. I actually had talked to the town surveyor many times, actually,
Okay.
about it. He actually gave me a whole bunch of maps on it, and it is.
All right,
I don't know why the town doesn't fix it up, but partly because the town owns the land. And if you were driving toward Hawks Neck Pond, the town owns the land on the right side of it. Basically, you know how they stop the pavement?
yeah.
The town actually owns the land on the right side of that,
Going
Yeah.
which way?
toward the pond.
Yeah.
Basically, when they stopped the
Yeah.
pavement, yeah, toward Oliver's Pond. The town
Okay.
bought that, I don't know, quite a while ago, and made it conservation land. It was actually subdivided like the rest around Cove, but
Water,
Was
water
that what-
department.
Was that what was going to become a water discharge sink? No,
no, that's way at the beginning of Hawks Nest.
okay.
That's that's probably like 500 feet in from Queen Anne.
Okay.
So this portion of the watershed is not proposed to be sewered as part of any of the phases.
Okay.
So this is different than other requests you've had before you for relief from 1.211, because those other subdivisions are scheduled to be connected to the sewer, but this one is not. However, even with traditional Title V systems, the nitrogen calculation comes out at 4.8 parts per million per lot. The comprehensive wastewater management plan's been completed, and we know that we need to remove a certain amount of nitrogen from Pleasant Bay, and the proposed sewering should suffice. So it's the regulation that they require, the nitrogen removing technology in a shared system. However, I feel it's not appropriate in this particular application.
Okay, I move the
I'll close
recommendation.
the hearing.
Say again? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I move the recommendation of the health director.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Easy peasy.
Yeah, I have unrelated, on the town sewer, like a friend of mine got one of the notices in there. Basically, they're by the charter school. And so if the septic goes out the rear, I'm sure the town sewer must be coming out the front, right?
Goes right along Route
Yeah.
39, 137.
And what do they do in that case? Would they do the piping outside if it would work and loop it around, or would they try and reroute it inside?
They have height, they do it around the house.
Yeah, it's,
They'll go around the house most likely outside. And would
Lot
they leave
easier.
the tank? No, right? They'd get rid of the tank.
Mm-hmm.
And when they laid this out, I know this might be another dumb question, are there many houses that are like lower than the sewer pipe?
there are.
So what do they do with that?
They are putting in grinder pumps.
Would that be the house owner's problem? So they, in other words, they could keep the sewer, the tank, put the dual,
They could.
and use that as the pump chamber
They
for the
could.
new town sewer?
They could. We recommend that they not use the existing septic tank and
'Cause it would be
instead just put in
A new one?
a new enclosed
Yeah.
grinder pump. Yeah.
But it would basically, they usually do use just a septic tank anyway, right, for the,
No, they don't, but they can. They can.
they just use a smaller version of that for something like that?
Like a 500 gallon, the round ones. They can
Okay.
use. But most of the E1 pumps are all enclosed.
Yeah.
What's the,
Okay, curiosity.
what's the half-life for a grinder pump, do you know, offhand?
I don't know.
Seems to vary a lot. I put in, I'm a plumber, and
Oh.
actually, I I have a sewer license up in Harwich, but I've put in some sewage ejectors, which is similar. I've had some that literally go in like 3 weeks and die, and then I've had some that last 20 years, so.
Does it make any difference who makes it?
I think Myers seems, is it, not Myers, there's one that really grinds it up well. I think all the bigger ones do, but
'Cause it sounds like it's a very high wear instrument, you know, a lot of,
I manage this condo that has them in there, and they don't seem to screw up as much as you think. They fixed them, they repaired one of them once in like the 5 years I've been there, so it's not that bad.
okay.
And it has like, I'm sure you guys know, they have the alarms inside, so you know
Yeah.
when one
Oh, yeah.
screws up.
Yeah.
I think it's only been once, and they did fix it, and it didn't even have to replace the pump, so.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. The next hearing we have is for Smith, an amended environmental impact report for the preserve at 1369 Orleans Road, to request relief from the Harwich Board of Health Regulation 1.211, 1 requirement for a shared septic system, and 2 requirement for nitrogen removal technology. The original EIR was approved at the February 9th, 2016 Board of Health meeting.
Okay, I open the hearing.
Hi, Don Bracken from Bracken Engineering for the applicant, Mark Smith, who is also here tonight. Quick recap from 3 years ago. This was a 8-lot subdivision on 9.5 acres. And at the time, when we asked for relief for this section, we installed a sewer force main, knowing that town sewer was going to come in the near future. Now, it's obviously much closer now than it was when we were here 3 years ago. And the plan was designed so that there would be a common system. We had included an Advantex innovative alternative system to reduce the nitrogen. We submitted, the report to demonstrate that the nitrogen loading was under the 5 parts per million. So now, fast forward now 3 years later, subdivision's pretty much been built. The sewer main is in, getting ready to put in this shared system. But rather than do that, obviously, now that it's in the works, what we'd like to do is be able to put individual septic systems in on each lot rather than do the shared system. So each lot is 40,000 square feet, 4-bedroom lots. They would meet the nitrogen loading requirements for the state. So we're asking that, to go forward with the individual designs and perk test, and then eventually hook into the town sewer. We submitted a schematic plan showing that at this time we'd put the subsurface septic system in and septic tank in. We would also put in the grinder pump system, prepackaged type system. We're showing an E1 type system. We were talking earlier about different types of systems. That could be the system we go with, but there are other options out there that we're looking at. But they're all pretty much generally look similar. So the idea would be, once sewer becomes available, it'll be an easy transition for the homeowner. It can convert or change the flow direction within the chamber, properly abandon the septic system, and be tied into the force main system in the road. A couple other things I'd just like to point out after reviewing the report again. The primary area of influence is toward Muddy Creek, which is 3,600 to 4,600 feet away. The flow direction from the subdivision goes towards Muddy Creek. The nearest ponds are Mills Pond and Minister's Pond, which are further to the south and southeast. The groundwater contour maps show that this site does not flow toward those ponds. As I said, flows directly towards Muddy Creek, which, as I'm sure you know, is within the estuary area, and hence why we're here for this request.
Recommendations?
Sure. Same 2 requests for relief as the previous application. However, this application is going to be sewered. It's right along Route 39. The subdivision has already installed their sewer main down Arthur's Way. It's already there. The plans that have been drawn by Bracken Engineering already show the sewer connection design. So they're well ahead of the game, and I recommend that you approve these two requests for relief with condition that the sewer lines come out the front of each dwelling, and that the dwelling shall abandon their Title V system and connect to the municipal sewer within 40 days of receipt of notice.
Okay. Any comments from the audience? Okay, I close the hearing discussion.
I'll make a motion. To accept the recommendation of the health officer.
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice drawings, by the way.
Very nice drawings.
I remember that 2 years ago. Somebody
Yes.
came forward, a very innovative idea on how to get it done.
Yes. Yep.
Smart to be on the out front of it.
And so far, one dwelling has been built and one tank has been installed.
Yeah.
But they feel that it's more efficient if they just abandon that existing tank that was going to the sewer system and just putting in a Title V, and not having to build the 8-lot shared septic system with the Advantech system.
Short
It's-
budget.
And this is one of those
Enjoyed that.
divisions that's below sewer line height?
Yes, so the force main that they've installed down their road is going to have to be pressure, because some of the houses are higher and lower, but some will get away with gravity, but it's less expensive than having to put in the shared.
Yeah, a lot. That's good.
We're moving right along. The next hearing is for Twomey for 22 Central Avenue to reconsider an order of conditions granted March 22nd, 1995. There is to be no increase in square footage to the dwelling. There's a proposal to demolish the existing house and construct a new home. Okay, it's
Before we go, I'd like to say thank you to Pam for her superb work at the hospital.
My other life.
My stepmother's now back in her apartment,
Oh, good.
so she's doing good. Let's see, Dan,
Way to build a friend.
Yeah.
had nothing to do with this.
Unless she's a wicked stepmother.
Dan Carotto from Moran Engineering. I'm here with the owner, John Toomey. In his request for approval for his plan to tear down the existing building and put up a new building at the number 22 Central Ave. I know the board has certainly seen a lot of these come before you. We did review the floor plan with the Megan, the health director. She didn't see an issue with it. It's currently 3 bedrooms upstairs. The proposal is for 3 bedrooms upstairs. The one nice thing about doing the project is it brings the building onto its own property. The building is actually, by current surveying standards, is actually a couple feet over one property line and right on the western property line. So on the site plan, you will see that there is there's an area on the south side that's there's an area on the southwest side. It's a roofed, it's a shed that's actually part of the building, but it extends over the lot line. So that would be removed, and then the owners are requesting an addition to the north, a slight addition to the north. Overall building coverage, which is the roofed area, is reduced, and the site coverage would remain the same. So the second floor does expand enough so that they can fit a half bathroom and legal bedrooms and a legal stairway to get up, to get to the top. We also submitted what the proposal is through Ambrose Homes for the foundation, which isn't the owner's favorite plan, but it's the only plan. But by doing this plan, we're able to maintain the existing variances without any changes and not impact upon the septic any more than the existing structure. I guess I'll go with that. So with that, we're both here for any questions.
So you're not going to have a deck in your new house, huh?
So there's gonna be a patio, just pavers.
Okay.
On the ground floor. You know, right out, you'll see a,
Oh, I see, yes.
yeah, there's gonna be a slider.
And there is a deck over that front porch,
Right.
isn't there?
Yeah, there's a deck over the front porch.
It's in front of the, we'll call it a master bedroom, in front of
building, yes,
the
exactly.
larger
You're
bedroom.
pointing to the right place.
So that will be over the septic tanks, is that right, that patio?
The patio would be, yeah, probably near it.
Right now, there's a, if we go to the existing conditions plan, there's actually a deck built over,
Yeah.
there's a deck and patio built over the septic tank. The leaching area is under the parking area. So one thing that will certainly have to be done is what I don't believe is currently there is access to one end of the septic tank. That'll certainly need to be accessible through the patio, which will be in the deck area, correct?
Yeah, presently the deck's over it, so they have to pull the deck up every time they do any work on it.
Will there be access to both septic tanks then, when you build your deck?
Yep, both ends of the septic tank and the leaching area will need to be accessed by Title V and the town's
Okay.
regs. Yep, we'll make sure of that.
Director's recommendations?
So this system was installed in 1995 and required a few variances because of the size of the lot and the size of the house on the lot. The proposal is not going to increase any of those variances. The setbacks are going to remain the same. They're proposing a stepped-back foundation. Right now, it's a crawl space with a couple of sonotubes, so the proposal is not going to increase any of those things. It was inspected in 2004 with passing results. I recommend approval of the variance request with the condition that it's restricted to a maximum of 3 bedrooms and that no further increase or alteration is allowed without further review by the Board of Health, and that the floor plan, including the foundation plan, is recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
Discussion?
Close the hearing. Nobody from the public, okay?
No, okay.
Discussion? Anything else?
No, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Oh,
I
wait a
gotta
minute.
vote still.
We haven't voted. I just meant discussion. Sorry.
I move that the a recommendation of the medical health director, sorry, be approved.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passed. Thank you.
Great,
No,
thank
thank
you.
you, appreciate it. You're welcome. Good luck, Mr. Toomey.
So your deck's on the second floor, the patio's on the first floor?
Yeah, there is a current deck on the first floor.
No, but I mean, when you,
When I
Yeah.
build it, I'm just gonna do a patio, so
Yes.
step out to a patio, and then we'll
Okay.
go over the porch.
Sounds nice.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll visit.
Enjoy.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Dan, hope your mother
Well, feels better. Doing good.
She's a lovely
Good.
lady.
Just got back today.
Oh,
She must be
nice.
happy. Yeah. Good to be home.
So the next application before you is a hearing for T-Bert, I'm not sure if I'm saying that properly, for 184 John Joseph Road, to consider variance requests to install a new Title V septic system prepared by Bass River Engineering. The variances are as follow. Minimum setbacks to allow the proposed soil absorption system to be 8 feet from the property line where 10 feet is required. A variance request of 2 feet. To allow the soil absorption system to be 5 feet from the property line where 10 feet is required. Variance request of 5 feet. To allow a proposed soil absorption system to be 14 feet from the crawl space where 20 feet is required. Variance request of 6 feet. To allow the soil absorption system to be less than required capacity. Variance request of 20%. Variances from the Harwich Board of Health regulations. To allow a proposed soil absorption system to be 75 feet from the bordering vegetated wetland where 100 feet is required. Variance request of 25 feet. And lastly, to allow a proposed septic system pipe sewer line to be 45 feet from the wetland where 50 is required. Variance request of 5 feet.
Okay, I open the hearing.
Thank you, Megan. For the record, my name is Tom McClellan. I'm a professional engineer representing Tom and Carol T-Bear. So the T-Bears own this one-bedroom house at 184 John Joseph Road, and they want to upgrade their septic system. The current system is an old cesspool with an overflow leach pit. The proposed system is a 1,500-gallon septic tank, a pump chamber, and 7 infiltrator chambers. We require the variances because it's a small lot in the location of John Joseph Pond. Megan went through the variances, so I'll skip that. There is just no place on this lot to get a system 100 feet from the wetland, okay? So I worked on a number of different designs, and I was finally able to get a leach area 75 feet from the wetland. The wetland has been delineated by Hamlin Consulting out of Brewster, and this plan was approved by the Conservation Commission last week. Okay. If you have any questions or comments, I'll try my best to answer them.
The directors,
This is a one-bedroom house. The existing floor plan is on the plan in front of you. It's truly a one-bedroom house. It has a block foundation. This is an improvement over what's currently there. It's farther away from the pond. The design is at 176 gallons per day, which is more than the 110 gallons per day required for the one bedroom. However, Title V has a minimum of 220 gallons per day for a minimum design. So that 20% reduction is an allowable reduction under local upgrade approvals. I do recommend approval of the variances with the one-bedroom deed restriction with a floor plan to be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. This area is not in phase 1, 2, or 3. It may be in phase 8 of the sewer system. So this is a good design.
Yeah.
okay, close the hearing, discussion? Nothing?
I move that the health director's recommendation be approved.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Very
Thank you.
good. Thank you.
I should say that, having driven by that house many times, there's almost always a bathing suit hanging on the railing. So that means they trust their septic system
Yes,
not to pollute their own beach.
it's a beautiful spot.
That's nice.
I've enjoyed working on that. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
You live back by there?
I used to live on Orleans Road, right around the corner.
Nice.
The last hearing on the agenda is a rescission plan of land, rescinding a portion of Belmont Ave as shown on Plan Book 574, page 5, and Plan Book 594, page 59. Plan prepared for Keith LaValle by Demarest Land Surveying. This lot is split. Lot 1, which is on Shore Street, part of Littlefield Pond Road area, near Depot Street, pretty close to the Brewster line. This lot is split by a paper road that was never installed, and they are requesting approval from the Board of Health to rescind that portion of land. It's required under the subdivision control bylaw that Board of Health approves subdivisions before they go to the planning board. So this, whether it's been or will be going, the planning board needs the Board of Health's blessing before they can officially approve that. This is in a zone 2. They're limited to 1 bedroom per 10,000 square feet. They are aware of that, so this will end up being a 48,000 square foot lot with 45,000 square feet of upland. There's a bit of wetland in the back. So I do recommend approval of the rescinding of this section of Belmont Avenue with the condition that no variances from Title V or Harwich Board of Health regulations be granted, that it's restricted to a maximum of 4 bedrooms and served by town water.
So essentially, you're just removing the Phantom Road.
Making the lot buildable.
Yeah. Okay. And that's okay with,
Close
do
here
you
and
need
that.
any abutter approval for that?
Not to come before the Board of Health, but
Okay.
they will or have been before the planning board, which requires abutters notices.
It's your turn.
I'll make a motion, we accept the recommendation of the health
Second.
director.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Okay.
Is there
That's
anything else
it?
you want to talk about? Is anyone interested in a work session to talk about waiver requests for extensions?
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's timely or we need to do it right away. We have a couple years before any demands for
No, I
connection are
think-
going out,
I
but
think we should have a protocol in place when they happen. Yeah.
yeah, something like, we need your financials, we need to know,
Yeah.
this is your first or second home, is this, have you applied for loans? Why are you requesting an extension?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's
It doesn't have to be
Fine.
right away, but we can schedule
Absolutely.
if we have a light meeting, we can do it, or
Sure.
we
I
can
thought this
schedule
was
it.
gonna be like.
Yeah.
I did
Next year.
too. Next year.
Next year.
I mean, next month, you mean, right?
Wow, next year. It's
That is
amazing.
next year.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, we should have some idea of what the right answer is to get a extension.
And
Right,
be all on the same page.
right, it's hard to say,
Is this going to be, I mean, couldn't you get a loan from the Barnstable County?
Mhm.
thing?
Yep.
So, to say I couldn't afford it, do you know what the, terms are of the loan?
it's either 2 or 4%. We're working on trying to get a 2% loan through the county.
Yeah.
This
Um,
county is 5, isn't it?
It's going to be 4 once they get their new SRF funding, I
Oh,
guess,
okay,
so.
sorry.
But
And then,
It's not a-
what about the term?
I believe it's a 20-year loan,
Yeah, so
yeah. It's
Yeah.
pretty low,
Yeah.
it's under $100, that's for sure.
usually, yes. And they cover everything from design to connection to landscaping. the loan can.
Yeah,
So we need to figure out, okay, your system's less than 5 years old, are we gonna give you a 3-4-year-old extension, you know, just some guidelines, so when
yeah.
I get questions, my
Yeah.
system's 12 years old, or am I going to get a waiver? Well, I don't really know right now,
Yeah,
so, we can talk about that at a future meeting.
yeah, yeah. Give us something to fall back on that we all agree on.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think that would be
Just
helpful
some
for you
loose guidelines, because.
and the public to know
Yes.
what, you know, where they stand.
All right,
Sounds good.
Great.
I
Anything
must
else?
say, I'm very impressed with the level of engineering drawings we've been getting. They're really remarkably detailed.
They have to be.
I know, but I like it.
There you go.
some are better than others, and we've seen some good ones. Mhm.
Well, I make a motion
Okay.
that we close the meeting.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye, okay.
All right.
Well, happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All
That was
right.
less than an hour.
What's that?
I thought it was gonna be a long
I did and you didn't, he said no.